I remember I walked up into St James's and my hands, everything, my whole body just lit up. I've got goosebumps all over my skin.
I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713, could've 21, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and honest, rider, rider. I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that.
Hey, here we go. We're back again. Good evening and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC, the Full Loaded Transfer Show. And this is the European perspective on all things Newcastle United tonight. So really intrigued to get Robin's thoughts in just a second. But welcome to everyone in the chat. I see people streaming in. I can see those tunes. We're going to get to those in just a second. But most importantly, boys, Daz, Chris, how are you on this fine Thursday evening?
All good at me, Pete. Just trying to decide when I get the new shirt, what new signing I'll get in the back. Will I get John Ruddy? Will it be Oddy, Kelly, or someone else? But no, where are the signings? People are going mad. I know people are onto you on Twitter, Pete, going, where are they? I'm asking the same questions. Where are they? Yes, time is ticking by. Let's get it done. Yes. Chris, how are you?
Good, mate. Yeah, all good. Can't complain. I finished work yesterday and I'm off now till the 5th of August. So that's nice. So I had a nice day off today, just chilling, relaxing. Played a bit of footy before, which was good. But yeah, like you guys, I'm thinking, you know, surely by the time I go back to work, we're going to have at least a couple of signings in, surely. But you know, we've been saying this now for the last 2 weeks, so waiting with bated breath at the minute. Hoping that something's going to get announced this week at some point. You know, wouldn't it be great if it was announced before the friendly on the Saturday? That would be great. But I'm not counting me chickens because, like I say, I thought that things would have progressed up to now, but they haven't. Hopefully, a lot's going on behind the scenes, and who knows, boys? We could end up talking about 1, 2, 3 signings very, very quickly. Maybe the lining everything up in the background. Who knows? But yeah, I'm all good. Pete, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Cannot complain. Well, I can complain. We need a signing and quickly. Just to settle everybody down. So everyone's getting a little bit agitated at the moment as the season draws close. But look, as I said to those in the chat when we tweeted out for the show tonight, it's going to happen. The window doesn't close till what? End of August, early September. We've still got time to get our deals done, and no doubt we will. And I'm sure we're going to get into that at some point tonight. But welcoming all. Sorry, Daz, 1 second. Just all the tunes very, very quickly. Let's get them out of the way because they've took their time to put it in. So welcome to Ian and GK. Thank you for your tunes. Chris Dawson asked the question you have, Daz. He's put his tune in. When are we going to see some movement? I'm sure we will. Very soon. Joshua and Rich, welcome in the chat. One of our resident spanners. Tom, how are you doing? Hope you're well. We've got Daniel back in the chat as well. Great to see you. Jordy Tune for Life, as always. Mike and Connie, great to have you in there, along with Benny as well. David in the chat. And we've got Charles, Toon Army Netherlands. Dominic Harvey is in there. Great to have you in there, Dominic. And Toon Talk as well. Great to have you in there. And we've got Mansell and Jeff. Get in with your tunes. Love it all, guys. Thank you for your support. let's get into it, because everyone wants to know where the signings are. However, we've got a slight different slant on this show tonight, because what we're going to do, we're going to ask about some of the links that we've had over the course of this summer, particularly around Europe. And there's no better person to get on from transfer.com. We've got Robin Bairner. So let's welcome him in again, second time into the live chat.
Welcome, Robin.
Hey guys, how you all doing?
Not too
Hey,
bad.
Robin.
All good.
Thank you for joining us first and foremost, and again, should I say? And
Thanks for having me back again.
It's a pleasure. It was great to chat to you. I think it was last summer. Now it must have been
It was a while ago now. It feels ages ago.
Yeah, definitely. But it's great to have you.
Holidays, actually, for that one. Actually.
You were.
Yeah.
I remember. But no, it's great to have you back on to talk all things Newcastle United and some of the links that we've had recently. But I know there has been some breaking news away from Newcastle United, which is quite sad to see, really. And it's this with Girondin de Bordeaux. Apparently, Mr. Crisis level financial troubles. They've informed that the FFF that they won't be renewing their professional license. All the players' contracts will be terminated, and their training centre will be closed. So effectively, could potentially and likely to mean the end of Girondin de Bordeaux. And just wanted to get your thoughts on that, Robin, just because it has broken the last sort of hour or two. Really sad news to see from a relatively big Ligue 1 club.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bordeaux are historically one of the biggest clubs in France. They've obviously had a whole bunch of huge players playing there, no less than Zinedine Zidane, for example. And it's not so long ago that they were in the Champions League quarterfinals and were a real force in France. So it's not something that's come out of the blue. Bordeaux have been in significant financial trouble for a long time, but they've just been so mismanaged. This has been coming for a while. Liverpool's owners, FSG, tried to buy them out, and there was a last-ditch bid that went in on Monday, but unfortunately that wasn't successful. So the whole future of Bordeaux is really up and doubt at the moment. I think we'll see them back, but in what guise, I'm not entirely sure. Strasbourg, for example, went through a similar thing a few years ago and are obviously back in Ligue 1, now owned by Chelsea. So hopefully Bordeaux will be back in the next few years, and hopefully it's sort of under their own steam as well. Hopefully it's not as a sister club to another team.
Yeah, a few Newcastle fans have been coming in and saying, why don't we get them as part of our sort of growth of building clubs? But you've touched on it there, and Foxy in the chat has touched on it as well. It's been really mismanaged. There was an owner that came in that wasn't, I could be wrong here, but not necessarily well known within the football world, not really savvy with regards to the football world, and that apparently has been part of what the decline has been. I could be wrong.
Yeah. No, you're right. Gerard Lopez took them over. He had been at Lille previously and got Lille into a bit of financial difficulty. He's also been involved in motorsport and doesn't have a good record there either. So this is something that's followed him around, and unfortunately Bordeaux are the ones that have really paid by, effectively going under now. So, as I say, it's something that's been coming. But it's a really sad day for French football because they are such a big club. And to be fair to Newcastle fans, they would be a great pickup for a club like Newcastle for an expanded sort of empire, if you like, because there's a good fan base there. There's a lot of passion behind it. Although we've seen at Strasbourg that there's also a lot of resentment against Chelsea there. So it's not necessarily something that's easy to manipulate and make happen.
Yeah, definitely. And the comment that you just put on there, Daz, it was actually quite fitting. I can't remember who just put it on, but they said, trust our owners. And when you look at the situation with the likes of Bordeaux and various other clubs around Europe, you do have to look at your own club. And we have to thank our lucky stars that, we were in a position where PIF fought for us for 18 months, took us over and has put us in this position right now. Obviously, of course, we want to be right at the top table, but look at where we are now as a club in comparison, boys. Like we're complete opposites of where we were what, 2.5 nearly 3 years ago. So yeah, just make you think. So great comment. I can't remember who put that in the chat, but yeah, brilliant comment.
It was David Bird that had that one in.
Definitely.
Actually, I know you're going in a direction, Pete, but you know, since two people have asked it, we'll ask Robin the question, and it comes from Munkulas. Do you boys think there's a chance we don't sign anyone? Honestly, so Robin, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's unlikely, isn't it? I mean, you've already signed Lloyd Kelly, who, and John Ruddy as well, of course. Obviously, they don't count in your eyes, but yeah,
Lloyd Kelly does.
Spectacular signings. They're not the big money signings. They sort of the big ticket signings that you want to see come in. But Newcastle have got a decent squad there, and you'd do fine without them. But obviously, you're wanting to be moving forward all the time. I find it very unlikely that Newcastle would just go through the whole market, particularly in the summer market, without signing anyone. You know, we see it happen in January all the time, but I think it'd be very, very surprising if it happened in the summer, especially after, you know, getting this big money for Elliot Anderson and Minty as well. There's got to be funds there.
And to link into that, Robin, I have a quote from Darren Eales. We will spend to our maximum that we can under the headroom. And also, he said on the commercial partners, we have a number of new partners in the pipeline we can announce over the next few months. So there's money there, and there's more money coming in. So it's a no-brainer that we're definitely going to be buying a few players.
Strategic, isn't it, Chris? Strategic planning. This is it. Like Baz has already touched on it. Like, you know, with the money coming in, it's going to come in stages. But like surely you're convinced signings are coming.
Oh, mate, 100%. I think minimum 2, possibly 3, and I think there'll be big ticket ones as well. I expect them both to be over 30 million, and the reason I say that is because we desperately need a right winger. I think the whole world knows that we need a right winger, and also I think we also need a right centre back, because we can't go into the season with the current crop of centre backs that we've got, because I think we'd be leaving ourselves a little bit short. So for me, I think there's going to be at least 2. I'm not limiting it to 2, but I think that would be the minimum. Honestly, I think there'll be 3 or 4. That's my figure that I'm sticking with. But I think minimum 2, and yeah, it'll be a right winger and a right centre back at minimum.
Yeah, and if they're the big signings, I don't think anyone will be complaining. That is for sure. But look, Robin, I just wanted to start off because there are some players that I wanted to, I think, get the lowdown on, really, because we have been linked with a number of players across Europe over the course of this summer so far. But just briefly, what are your thoughts been of Newcastle United's summer? Obviously, we've had the PSR situation. You know, we sold Cuba Minte, Elliot Anderson. We've brought in the players that you've mentioned. Then we had the situation of Paul Mitchell coming in. And then more recently, we've had this kind of will he, won't he, Eddie Howe with England and the interviews that came last week. Like, what have you made of Newcastle United summer overall? Is it as worrying as some fans in the chat and some fans recently have been suggesting, or are fans kind of thinking like too negatively in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand fully why fans would be getting nervous about the situation, but it's also a very funny summer. As you mentioned, PSR, there was a sort of unofficial deadline, if you like, at the end of June. And I think the important thing for Newcastle was really staying within that while also retaining Bruno Guimaraes and Alexander Isak. And obviously you've managed to do that. So you're going to go into the season with your 2 biggest and best players. And I think that was the main thing. Obviously you mentioned Paul Mitchell, which has probably caused another sort of slowdown in the market. Another complication, and it's been a complicated summer for a lot of teams. I mean, Manchester United have only just made a couple of signings. Arsenal are only just getting going in the market now, and I think that's partly been caused by the European Championship and also the Copa America. So, you know, it's been a funny sort of market so far this summer. Newcastle perhaps are maybe a week or 2 behind other clubs, but at the same time, I don't think it's necessarily cause to panic. Although I can fully understand why fans are starting to get a bit twitchy at this stage without having made a big signing, particularly since we're now, 2-3 weeks away from the start of the season. But they will come.
Yeah, definitely. So all you Newcastle fans watching right now, don't worry. Robin has calmed all of everybody's fears. The signings will come, that is for sure. And look, one signing that's been there pretty much all summer. We've talked about it, lads, quite a lot, and we'll go straight to the one that's on the tip of everybody's tongue at the moment, and it's this man, Malik Towell. And yes, I feel like I'm pronouncing that right. So even though people in the comments will say it's Chow or Tao, I don't know. I feel like I pronounced it right, so we'll leave it there. But this young German centre back has been, for the last 2 years, a really good performing player at AC Milan. There has been some reports, and we've got the Gazzetta dello Sport that had him on the front, really, in saying that Newcastle are sort of looking at a 30 million euro bid. AC Milan want sort of 40. Can there be somewhere in the middle? That's what the Italian press are kind of reporting. But from your perspective, would Malik Towell be a good signing for Newcastle United? Like, what have you made of him from the bits that you've seen, and how could he fit into Newcastle United?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've seen a bit of him over the course of the last year or two. He's been with Schalke and now at Milan, as you mentioned, and I think he'd be an excellent pickup. He's 22 years old. He's got the room to improve. He's got the potential to improve. He played regularly for Milan last season. He's quick. He's technically strong. He's solid in possession, doesn't give the ball away too often. Does have a tendency to give up fouls a little bit, but I think given his profile, his versatility, he can play on the right. And as a central defensive midfielder, I think he'd be a very useful player to have in Eddie Howe's squad.
Definitely. It's interesting that I saw like a kind of a clip of just one of his games. It was on social media, so lots of people would have seen it. And it was against Tottenham in the Champions League. And what I loved about him is how aggressive he was, really aggressive. I think he was up against Harry Kane and didn't give him a sniff. But what was more interesting, boys, and we've been talking about right-sided centre-back, right-sided centre-back. He actually played that game on the left. He actually played that game on the left side of centre-back. So, as Robin said, that sort of versatility there, I just found it really interesting there. But boys, we talked about it before. To be fair, we were asked the question, who do we think the next signing was going to be? You boys said it. I agree with you. I think he will potentially be that next one in the door. At this stage, is he the profile that you think Newcastle United should be getting? I mean, we've been linked with others. We've talked about others. From what Robin said, like, is that confirmed in your mind that that's the type of guy we should be looking for?
Most definitely. I think he's 23, has pace, is aggressive, it seems like the one. And it's all come down to this, and we just need to get it over the line. So yeah, that's who I'd like to see rock up now. And yeah, you'd wonder what the hold up is. As loads of speculation and different things, but yeah, the media is now starting to. I know Martin Hardy had it out today, this morning, that about just what you described there. They're looking for 35 million, and we're valuing. Oh, you had it there ready to go. And we're at 25 million. So we're 10 million apart. So just trying to find the balance in there to get this one done. I suppose he had the link up with Tonali as well. He would have played with Tonali in the past, I think, at least. So why not get it done, and then we can move on and onto the right winger, and on then to maybe a striker, depending on how things go.
Definitely. Chris, is your mind changed in any way? Over the days since we last had this conversation, that was only a few days ago. But obviously, because it's still not being confirmed, and we've seen other links with other players, like, do you think maybe Newcastle United are looking in a different direction, or do you think they're just trying to get their ducks in a row to make sure that this deal is rubber stamped?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Pete, because the only thing that makes me nervous about Malik Towell is the fact that Newcastle don't tend to do the business in the media, for everyone to kind of see. So that's the only thing that's making me nervous, because there's a lot of top journalists now who are all pointing towards him. And it just makes me wonder whether, I know I'm going to use the word and I shouldn't, but you just wonder whether it's another smokescreen, where the club are going, yeah, go on, you keep talking about him because we're focusing on him. Jean-Claude Todibo's name got mentioned as well. But it does make me laugh because, we heard reports that Paul Mitchell had conversations with Jean-Claude Todibo, but that Eddie Howe didn't want him. And the reason that we didn't go for him is because he wants to go to Juventus. But so it's only when you sit back and look at all these news and media outlets when they come out and say all these things, it does make you think, how do you know that? How do you know that's the case? Has anybody come out and said that is the case? So that's the only thing that's making me nervous about Malik Chow, the fact that he's been so strongly linked. And that's what's making me the only player I can remember who we've signed in recent times who we were so strongly linked with and we actually went through with the deal was Sven Botman. But that was because it was played out in public, because Mirzad and Sven Botman were messaging each other on Instagram and liking each other's posts. Now, we've not seen any of that. And we know that Malik Chow has a good relationship with Sandro Tonali, so there's a link. We know that, as Daz was mentioning before, the profile of him, he fits the Newcastle profile. So I would imagine he is a player that Eddie Howe and the coaching staff are interested in. I'm sure Paul Mitchell knows all about him as well. But I'm just thinking, we keep hearing, Newcastle bid 30 million, AC Milan want 40 million, maybe we'll meet in the middle. It's just not like Newcastle to do, especially under this ownership, to do their business in the public. So I'm now thinking, starting to doubt myself and thinking, are we even in for them? Are we going for them? Is this deal close? I mean, this is the nearest deal that we can link to because this is all we've got. We've not heard anything else, but I do kind of like that as well. The fact that, we don't hear all the rumours and hear all the whisperings that go on. I do like the fact that, the club is quite tight-knit these days and we don't hear those things. So that's the only element of doubt I've got, I would say, Pete. But it certainly looks like he's going to be, the next signing, and he's probably the favourite to be the next signing. And just to add into what I was saying before as well, which we didn't mention, another reason why I'm confident that we will sign big this summer transfer window is the fact that obviously the old PSR period is over. We're now into a new PSR period. So we've got that extra little bit of time to look forwards. And Daz has mentioned the contracts, which is absolutely right. All the the new sponsorship and things. So if you're going to spend big, it will be the start of what looks like a new 3-year period, unless of course they change the rules again. But now is the time to spend big. And I think because our rivals, and I say rivals, within like the top 7, top 8 of us, not all spent big, but a lot of them have spent big on players in order to kick on, in order to progress. As Robin was saying earlier, you need to make sure you keep up appearances and you've got to improve the squad. And yes, we're going to have Sandro Tonali back, and yes, Joe Linton's going to be back, and Nick Pope's back in between the sticks. All positive. But in order to move on and in order to progress, you need to bring fresh blood in and you need to up the levels within the squad.
You have to remember, on top of what you've said, is that Darren Eales has already said that every signing that you make, the Newcastle United make, they have to be right. We haven't got any room to not get them right. So it seems like, for me, and I could be wrong, and Robin, like, if you maybe have heard or see things differently, let us know. It seems like Paul Mitchell's come in and we've had to reevaluate the situation. I wouldn't be surprised, and I've said this to a few people, I wouldn't be surprised that if some of our other links are now changed because Paul Mitchell's come in and he's probably got a different short list of players that he feels are better suited, and maybe that's why it's taking a bit longer, because they're reviewing what their initial targets were. But Malik Chow seems to be the type of guy he actually, correct me if I'm wrong, for me, he actually feels very much similar to the makeup of signing of Sven Botman in terms of the way in which he plays and the way in which he holds himself. And Sven Botman may be a little bit more composed in possession, but Malik Chow seems as the same kind of framework of sort of a Sven Botman. Would you agree with that, or would you see it differently, Robin?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, if he was to sign this summer, he'd be signing, I think, around a similar sort of age as Botman did, for example. Similar sort of qualities, similar sort of experience, I guess, as well. So yeah, I mean, I can absolutely see the comparison there, and I think it's definitely a valid one.
Definitely. Look, just before we move on from Malik Chow, sorry, people in the chat. What they're looking, Newcastle were looking at around sort of 30 million euros. AC Milan want 40. Some are saying and reporting that maybe they'll meet in the middle around sort of 35. Would you say 35 million euros is a kind of a good fee to be paying for someone of that ability, or would you say it was too expensive or cheap, in fact?
No, I would say it seems about right to me. I think when you're a Premier League club, and particularly Newcastle, who are known to have rich owners, and you've obviously made a couple of big sales. We've already spoken about how the money will be there to make signings. Milan are naturally trying to get as much from Newcastle as they possibly can, and obviously, naturally, Newcastle are trying to give themselves as good a deal as they possibly can. So I think this is just a bit of transfer poker that we're seeing at the moment. But I do think they're going to come to an agreement, and I can see why Newcastle only want to pay 30, but equally I can see why Milan are holding out for 40. So I think anywhere in that sort of ballpark seems like a pretty fair price.
Definitely. And we shall see. I think there will be movement soon. So we shall see that is for sure. This Malik Chow conversation in the chat is wild.
Just call him Malik.
Yeah, we might have to, or come up with a nickname for him just to calm the opinions. But we'll say Chow for now on that one. Let's talk about another player or another couple. Really, let's put these two together, because you have mentioned before Jean-Claire Todibo. He has been linked with Newcastle United. There was even rumours of last week or week and a half ago that Paul Mitchell had conversations with his entourage, but it looks like he's moving on to Juventus, or certainly looking at that. And then we talked about another defender from Leverkusen, Adilium Kusono, and he obviously was a winner at Leverkusen last season, part of that Invincibles under Xabi Alonso. Can you see any of those being Newcastle United targets? Can you see Kusono leaving Leverkusen this summer? And is Jean-Claire Todibo like a dead cert for Juventus? Is that just kind of waiting to be rubber stamped?
Well, just to touch on Kusono first, I mean, I think the rumours at Leverkusen are that Jonathan Tah's going to leave, and obviously that's going to have a big knock-on effect. I've not seen a whole lot of Kusono, but he looks like a reliable defender from what I've seen. Unlike Shaw, very solid, aggressive, powerful. So yeah, and absolutely a player that I appreciate and like. And Todibo, he does look like he's going to Juventus. I mean, if I'm Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who still owns Nice, remember, I'm not going to sell him to a Newcastle team that could potentially rob Manchester United of getting into the Champions League spot. That doesn't make sense to me. And remember, Man United wanted to sign Todibo as well, so he's obviously a player that United's hierarchy rate very highly. So for me, it wouldn't make sense if he can be sold to another European club. That's much more logical, in my opinion, than selling him to a Premier League club. And it appears that Todibo also wants to move to Juventus. So I think for me, that one's more or less not quite a done deal, but it certainly looks like it's well on track to be completed, particularly since Juve aren't going to get Riccardo Calafiori, who's off to Arsenal, of course.
Yeah, lots of movement there from various different clubs, and they're two players that we have covered before on Loaded Bag NUFC, so we'll park them for a second, but always good to bring them up. What's interesting before we move on to the sort of the attacking side of the team is the right back position. I don't think any of us thought that it would be a position of maybe consideration. However, there have been some links with regards to Kieran Trippier potentially moving on. Mundo Football mentioned that potentially going back to Atletico Madrid is one of the options. There's also Sky Sports sort of in Germany that's talking about, could there be the potential of him going back to Bayern Munich, even though there are links to Saudi Arabia for Kieran Trippier. So with him leaving, we know we've got Tino Livramento, but there has been links with a particular right-sided defender, and it's Michael Coyote from Fiorentina. Now, he's been linked quite a while, certainly for the last couple of weeks with Newcastle United, and it came sort of from nowhere. But what have you seen of him, Robin? As a defender, and would he be the sort of right profile to come in and potentially replace Kieran Trippier and be fighting it out for Tino Livramento? Do you feel he's at that level? What can you tell us?
To his level yet. He obviously broke through at Fiorentina last year, became an Italy youth international, and he wasn't really expected to do much at Fiorentina last year. He kind of came in at the start of the season as a bit of a bolt from the blue, and performed really, really well in the first few matches of the campaign, but fell out of the team towards the end of the season. And I guess that's part of the reason why Fiorentina are happy to move him on at the moment. They want about 20 million euros for him. His strengths are in terms of his physicality. He's strong. He covers a lot of ground. And also he's got a really impressive long throw, which is, I guess, a kind of unique weapon in the modern day that could be very useful. In the past, he's obviously been linked with Arsenal, Barcelona and Aston Villa. So, there's the pedigree of top teams wanting him. But I think that's mainly because he's got this raw potential that can be exploited, rather than because they think he's somebody who can come into a team right now and make an impression.
Interesting, boys. Wanted to get your thoughts on this. Actually, I'll do this all together, because obviously we've just talked about and heard from Robin with regards to Michael Coyote, young sort of right-sided defender that could be potential to replace Kieran Trippier. But there's been a couple of others that are in the mix over the last couple of days. One that's kind of resurfaced has surfaced last night is a young right-sided defender in Mark Pubel, Almira's under 21s right back, and is actually playing at the Olympics and scored yesterday. We've got reports here from Gianluca Di Marzio that's mentioned that Newcastle United are one of those teams that are interested alongside Roma. An interesting link here, boys, and I just want you to get your thoughts on all three, really. This one has come from the Forest side, from Forest Watch. We're one of a few teams that are interested potentially in Neco Williams. That came out, I saw this today, and I thought that was quite interesting. So, my question is that your thoughts just on those three links with those three players. But interestingly, Chris, you mentioned you thought we might get three signings, maybe four. Could that right back position be a position with all the links that actually we could be targeting this summer?
I don't know. I think it's an interesting one. Like, I'll be honest. I mean, Kieran Trippier was linked with a move away in January, and I think you boys know, and I think you boys agreed, that I think we should have cashed in. And that isn't me saying it off the back of the performances at the back end of the season. I just think that, given his age, given the fact that we've already signed 30 million Tino Livramento to kind of replace him, we've got Harrison Ashby back from loan at Swansea. We've also got Emil Kraft there. I'm surprised, Pete. I'll be honest. I'm surprised we're being linked with right backs. Because let's say we brought in a first choice right back. What's that saying to Tino Livramento? That would be my big one, because I imagine anybody that we would bring in, wouldn't want to come in as second choice right back, because at the moment for me, Tino Livramento should be, and most probably will be, the first choice right back. So the fact that we're being linked with right backs does surprise me. I must admit, I don't know much about Mark Pubel or Michael Coyote. Must admit, I don't know much about either. And the Neco Williams one surprises me, because he joins Forest from Liverpool. I think Liverpool got a really, really good fee for him, actually. And it really annoys. I don't know why it really annoys me that he's number 7 and he plays right back. Like that's one of the worst decisions anyone's ever made. Like, every time I see him, it just irritates me. But not saying he's a bad player, but is he better than Tino Livramento? I'd say not. And, I'm pretty sure Forest paid around 15 million for him. So, what kind of price would it cost to get him out of Forest? And where are you going to play him? Are you going to push him further forward and play him right wing? I mean, we know that he bombs down that right wing, but surely you go for an out and out right winger rather than bring in, a talented right wing back. But we've already got one. We've already got one in Tino Livramento. So it surprises me. Right back is the one position that I was kind of like, no, do you know what? I think we're okay here. So it does surprise me.
It's probably worth jumping in at the moment, just saying that Coyote can play as a right winger. He played there a little bit for Fiorentina. So although he is primarily a right back, he definitely played a little bit more advanced and can certainly play further forward. So he could kind of cover two bases there.
We do know that Eddie Howe loves his versatility. So yeah, that's definitely coming in. But Chris, Daz, sorry, I've got to be honest. When I saw the Neco Williams link, I just thought, that's surely not. We've watched him. We've watched him against this.
Yeah.
He hasn't been great every time we've seen him.
I'm gonna shut it down, Pete, because this is my logic. Right, and okay, it just Daz's world. Right, Trips is going. Tino is number one. Tino is number one, even if Trips stays at right back. We have, as Chris rightly points out, we have Harrison, Ashby, and Kraft as backup. I think the links to the Fiorentina players, let's say, because this is another midfielder you're going to mention from Fiorentina, so it's because the plane spotters have spotted that there's been a few flights back and over between Newcastle and Fiorentina. So who's the best players from Fiorentina? Let's make a story about that. And as you quite pointed out and said before the show as well, that Spanish lad who's playing at the Olympics, he scored a goal. So, okay, the Newcastle may need to right back. Let's write a story about him as well. So that's why I'm shutting down stories on right backs. It's right side of centre back, right winger, and striker. Everything else is off the table until we sort those positions.
Or a centre mid. I'll take a centre mid.
Yeah.
That would definitely be if one presents itself. Like, I don't think we'll go looking in that position. But no, those are the points you made, absolutely spot on. Chris, to answer your point, is that would a player want to come in and play second fiddle? It's maybe a conversation we're going to have later on in the show, because the reason why I say that is that for me, like if that right back is coming in and is better than Kraft, for example, better than Ashby, who I don't think has a future at Newcastle United, that's just my opinion. Then you'd probably bring them in, because then the ceiling of the team, of the squad, goes up, because those players are better than what's already there. So maybe, but I'm quite happy with Daz's assessment on that, shutting those down. Although Mark Pubelmi does look like just in the little bits I've seen, does look like a sort of a talented player, but one to maybe revisit later on in the window. However, Daz, you quite rightly, and I'm going to come to Robin on this one, said there's another player from Fiorentina that we've been linked with again in the last few days. Numerous people have reported on it, but in particular, from a Newcastle perspective, the Chronicle had put something out saying Newcastle have been urged to sign Nicolas Gonzalez as nerves kick in after a lack of squad arrivals in Italy. La Viola had reported that there is interest there from Newcastle United and Fiorentina. Apparently, the bid has gone in; it's low, and they feel that there'll be another bid coming in. But just again, Nicolas Gonzalez, right winger, a priority position for us. Do you see him being the fit of Newcastle United? Just won the Copa America, if I believe, with Argentina.
Yeah, I mean, again, another interesting player. The issue for me on Nicolas Gonzalez is his price. And as you mentioned earlier, Newcastle can't afford to get signings wrong. And when you're talking about getting a signing wrong, obviously the price comes into that. Yeah. Brentford had an offer for him last summer for 36 million. That was knocked back. Presumably Fiorentina are looking for more than that this summer. This is a guy who could certainly be an asset, but it's just a case of whether you think he's worth the money that Fiorentina are asking for. Last season, he scored 12 Serie A goals. He gets away loads and loads of shots. He's strong in the air. So there's huge plus points there. On the negative side, he's for a right winger, he's not particularly creative. He seems to have more of a sort of mindset of almost of a striker rather than a winger, I would say. But equally, he's got this huge defensive ethic as well. So he works really hard off the ball. So on one hand, you've got this almost kind of selfish player who likes to shoot all the time. But on the other, you've got this guy who tracks back and does a lot of defensive work. So there's definitely assets there. He could definitely fit into the Newcastle squad, I believe. But it's just a case of whether they want to spend the money that Fiorentina want for him. And I think at the moment he's too expensive for the price they're asking.
That's a great assessment, Robin, with regards to Nicolas Gonzalez. But boys, I'm going to ask you this question: who does that remind you of?
Do you want me to read out what I put in our chat when we had that link pop?
Go for it.
I said, I'm not so sure about him. I'd keep looking. He's a battler and stronger than Miggy, but once again, is very left-footed. He can play across the front three. He's an upgrade on Miggy, but not a massive wow upgrade. And this is the right wing is where the position I think we go big. I'd also go for someone younger. He's 26. It's a good age, but not a great age in football in terms for our marquee kind of signing. But maybe it depends on the price. But Robin is saying he'd be expensive as well. But yeah, that's just from looking at one video clip. But I don't think he's the one for us, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Chris. Hearing that assessment from Robin, great assessment, and actually just from the little bits I've seen, it's like exactly what I saw as well. It did give me Miggy vibes. Gave me Miggy vibes, and I'm not quite sure. I want to get your thoughts on this. I'm not quite sure I'm ready for another Miggy type player to come in a priority position, which is, and we've talked about how important that right wing is. What's your thoughts on that, fella?
Yeah, there's got to be a severe upgrade on that right wing, hasn't there? We've spoken about our frustrations, not just last season but also the season before. I know Miggy hit a bit of a purple patch the season before last, and we thought all of a sudden he'd arrived, and then unfortunately that purple patch ended, and then we kind of saw the same thing again. Now, as Robin mentioned, with Gonzalez, great that he's someone who tracks back, full of energy. I like the fact that he gets shots off. Sometimes Miggy is a little bit reluctant to do that, particularly if the ball's on his right foot. But the only thing is we need consistent numbers, consistent performances. And since Anthony Gordon's come in, that's exactly what we've had. I mean, we all loved Alan St-Maximin. And when he left, we were disappointed, particularly because of the price as well. I thought we could have got more, but hey-ho. But when he left, we were disappointed. But then as soon as Anthony Gordon came in, he came in the January, if I remember, struggled a little bit, but you could kind of see there was something there. And then obviously last season, he was absolutely fantastic. And we don't look back now. We don't look back on St-Maximin because Anthony Gordon, double figures for assists, double figures for goals. And we kind of need that on the right-hand side. That's what we need. Like a player who's ready to deliver and can provide those goals and assists that we so desperately need, because we know that we've got goals through the middle with Alexander Isak. Anthony Gordon's chipping in. If we've got an equivalent of Anthony Gordon on the right hand side, we've got a potent front three, and then it's just about keeping the three of them fit, really. But it kind of leans back to what you said earlier as well, Pete, about needing that squad depth. I think if we've got the likes of a Jacob Murphy as an understudy on the right wing, absolutely fine. We know Anthony Gordon can play on the right wing. I think Harvey Barnes can, even though he's not, predominantly his side. But this is what we need. We need an out-and-out right winger who's top draw. And I think, imagine adding last season a right winger who's getting you double figures in goals and assists. We wouldn't have finished where we did. We'd have finished significantly higher, and I think that's what we need.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And an upgrade is what we need. So we're going to ask you this question, Robin. A player we've been linked with all summer. So many Newcastle fans have said he's not coming to Newcastle United. His wages are too high. He's going to cost too much. But then other reports have come out and said he's not going to be as expensive. And it's this man, the Italian left winger, can play right wing, Federico Chiesa. We've just talked about an upgrade in that potential right position, or certainly the wing position, let's say. Would he be the guy that could potentially do that for Newcastle United? You know, what's the chances of him leaving Juventus, and could he come to the Premier League?
Well, the chances of leaving Juventus are very high. I think he's got 1 year left on his contract. There's no sign of a negotiation for a new deal. Juve have obviously got a new head coach in Thiago Motta, and by all accounts, he doesn't fancy Chiesa. So, yeah, absolutely, Chiesa could be on the way. Is he the man for Newcastle? That's a more difficult question again. He's a player that I really like. I mean, before suffering an ACL injury, so we're talking about the sort of European Championship time where Italy went through and won. He was excellent around that period. He hasn't come back quite as strongly. I think Leonardo Bonucci was in the Italian press earlier this week, the legendary centre-back, and criticised his mentality and physicality in terms of his fitness levels. So if you're going to the Premier League, you need to be fit and you need to have a good, strong mentality. And these are two doubts that are hanging over Chiesa at the moment. For me, technically, he's superb and definitely a player that could fit into a Newcastle team. But if he's not prepared to get himself fit and he's not prepared to approach the game with the correct attitude, he's going to be no use. And to be honest, he's probably the sort of player you could get at a decent price at the moment, simply because he has that 1 year left on his contract. But I think there's probably too many doubts hanging over him at this stage for Newcastle to take a risk. Because again, we're going back to the fact that the statement where Newcastle can't afford to make a wrong signing. And again, the cost of Chiesa isn't going to be peanuts. He's going to be a significant fee for Newcastle. So is he somebody you really want to be taking a risk on when his mentality and physique's being questioned by a player who's worked with him in the past? For me, no.
Interesting. It's what we've talked about, really, is those sort of concerns around his injuries. You know, can he perform at that level? Is the potential change of scenery, Daz, the one that could bring it back to life? Because we're not the only team in the Premier League that have been linked with him. Aston Villa have been linked with him. Tottenham have been linked with him, even as early as more recent as today, as really kind of putting that pressure on to get him in. So clearly teams around us rate him. You know, should we be the ones to try and nick in there first, or exactly what Robin and we've said? Should we just be very, very standoffish and just evaluate the situation?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of changed my mind a few times in Chiesa. I'd go with someone younger myself, not as big of an injury history, let's say. Yeah, I'd see. I know the price has been mentioned as well as around. There's talk of 20-25 million for Chiesa is what you're very looking for. But his wages is going to be whether we'll take that gamble or maybe you could come up with some kind of a deal. But I can't see him taking that. Is that performance related kind of. Like bonuses into his contract, but he'll surely have a pick of clubs as well. So I don't know. I'd sit in the long grass for a while and see what my other targets, whoever they are, maybe.
Chris, can we afford to sit in the long grass for any longer for our right winger? But I get what Daz is saying. Absolutely. Are you of the same mindset, or would you take the risk and hope for the reward of having potential, that special ability come back into his game? Oh, you're on mute.
Mute, Chris.
I thought it was me for a second.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. I think Robin described it well. Clearly a very talented player, and he's probably got a really, really high ceiling. But I suppose the doubts are if the attitude's in question, if the injury record's in question, it's whether or not we take the risk. I mean, Daz mentioned as well that, you know, he'd command high salary. would you want to make him one of your top earners? We always said, didn't we, or the owners have said, since they came in, that we're kind of looking to build and make players that top tier rather than go out and buy the top tier players. And for me, I think Chiesa is a top tier player. When he's fit and firing, we saw it in brief glimpses at the Euros. He's got that turn of pace and he's got a good shot on him, and there's ability there. But it's just whether or not you want to commit to a 4 to 5 year deal and then end up very quickly regretting it, or he's on the injury table and you're thinking we kind of knew this was going to happen. That's the only risk with him. He's not a great age. I think I'm fair saying that. He's not tall. Yeah.
It's in the middle there.
Yeah, it is. He's not over the hill, but he's not someone like this. This will be probably his last big pay packet, and I think that's why clubs haven't gone in for him, because they know that could well be his mentality, where he goes 3 or 4 year deal, top wages, and then obviously if it doesn't work out with the club, he's then going to be approaching, if not in his 30s, and then that's just going to go quickly down, unless of course he sorts his head out. But then, do you want to take a risk paying someone 150 grand a week plus to then realise, oh yeah, all these rumours were true? It does make you wonder whether you'd rather take a risk on, say, a player 2 or 3 years younger, early 20s, and they've got a big chunk of their career ahead of them, and you can coach little things out of them. They've got the right mentality. They want to reach the top of the game. Is that the kind of player that we should really be going for instead?
I wish I was 26 again.
Oh, me too.
We're talking football for Newcastle. We want to bring in a signing that's going to be around. And what is it with all our anyone we're being linked to, or we talked about this somewhere, either getting married or getting engaged? So you just linked that one there, Pete. You said where Jared Bowen has got engaged. Chiesa got married the other day. So did Marmashvili got married the other day. So.
But I know he's at what I want. I know what he's doing there. I know what he's doing. He's going, hold on. All right, wingers, just been at the Euros. He's just got engaged. People, be patient. He's coming to Newcastle. Oh. That's what he's done in that tweet, in that comment there. That's what he's done, and I like it. I like it a lot. Well done on that one. Before Robin, I want to get your thoughts, and I kind of mentioned this to you before the show. I said I would like to know, or we would like to know, based on what we've talked about tonight, who are potential signings that you think would be good for Newcastle United, looking in those sort of defensive right wing positions, and potentially this position as well. And I want to throw this player at you because I want to get your thoughts on him as well, obviously. And it's a striker. We know this man could well be leaving Newcastle United, Callum Wilson. He's had his injury problems. He's got a back injury again, which will put him out until after the first game of the season against Southampton. But we have been linked with this man, Jonathan David of Lille. Had another good goal-scoring season, played at Copa America, and has 1 year left on his contract. So, what do you make of him? Do you think he would be a good alternative for Callum Wilson? Could you see that potentially happening?
Yeah, David's a player that I like a lot. As you mentioned, played in the Copa America with Canada and did very well there. Coming off a really strong second half to the season with Lille last year. He struggled in the first half. Didn't necessarily do a whole lot in terms of off the ball work, but he was much more of a sort of pure centre forward. Now he's not a guy that's going to start ahead of Isak. He's not that good. He probably doesn't offer the sort of all-round play that he does. But certainly, if he's happy to go to Newcastle in a backup role, which it obviously would be, then he's very attainable because we know that he wants to move. I think his price is around the €30 million mark, which isn't too bad for his goal scoring record. He's got about one in every couple of games at league level over quite a prolonged period now, so he's a prolific scorer. But it's just a case of whether he's prepared to go to Newcastle and not be first choice. And that might depend. It might be a case of him waiting for 2 or 3 weeks to find out how the transfer market plays out and to see if he does get the opportunity to go to the Premier League, because we know he wants to play in the Premier League. but he probably wants to do that as a first choice striker. So does he want to do that? Does he want to go to Newcastle and be second choice? So he's certainly a potential signing. He will leave this summer. That's almost certain. It's just a case of when and to where.
It's an interesting one. Boys, do you see? I don't think I've asked you this before, but I'll ask you it now. Would you see Jonathan David as an upgrade to Callum Wilson, or would you see him at the same level, or would you see him just below? Where
an upgrade because he can play, and he'd play anytime you would imagine we'd look to him to play, he'd be able to play, and that's the whole problem. None of us have any problem with Callum Wilson when he's playing because he's class, but he's never available for us when we really need him, because we need for Isak to be getting a bit of a rest in games or coming off towards the end of games, or we go goal behind. We need to bring on a second striker and change the formation, or we've cup games to just rest Isak. So we need a striker that's going to fit in there. But another point I want to, Ali mentioned it because I've read it somewhere before as well, that the agent is looking for like 10 million or something in that deal for Jonathan David. So that's probably we're not going to bow down to those kind of demands. We walked away before.
Just to add in that, that's a good point. Just because that's apparently why West Ham have walked away. I think they wanted him to be their main striker. I think they've walked away because of that. Are we going to want to pay that? It's a great point and great question. But for you, Chris, with regards to the Jonathan David situation, there's one or two people that are saying, well, and to be fair, Robin mentioned it. Would he not want to come and just be first choice? Would he want to join Newcastle United and play second fiddle? We managed to keep Callum Wilson and Isak doing that for 2 seasons, albeit injuries or else affected it. But so if we can encourage Wilson and Isak to do it as a pair, could we not do the same with Jonathan David? Could we not sell him the vision of where we want our attacking line to be?
I think we could sell him the vision. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in an ideal world, he would want to be first choice striker, and he knows that Alexander Isak is going to be in front of him. But if he's got the right attitude, and he's a player who can, a bit like the attitude that Wilson shows with Isak, I think they both respect each other. But if you ask Isak who's the better striker, Isak would say himself, and I'm sure Callum Wilson would do exactly the same thing. So I think it would be seen as healthy competition. Jonathan David will get minutes, and we've already said that we need that squad rotation. We need to be able to bring Isak off on the 65th minute if we need to, give him a rest, or if there's a cup game through the week, give him a rest. So Jonathan David would have plenty of opportunities, to either come on as a sub and make an impact, or to start in place of Alexander Isak, if he was suspended, injured, or simply we just wanted to rest him. So it's not as if he wouldn't get any football at all. But you're right in what you say, in that he's not coming in as that marquee number one sign. And like if he joined West Ham, he would be the first choice striker, and everybody would know that. At Newcastle, it would just be a case of always come in to kind of fill in for Alexander Isak. But if he backs himself, and if he performs when he does come on the pitch, there's no reason why he couldn't displace Alexander Isak, as long as he shows the form, as long as he's scoring the goals or getting the assists or whatnot. It's not a do or die. We've seen, times where Alexander Isak has, dried up a little bit and not been as potent as he was. And, we've started Callum Wilson ahead of him. So there's no reason why that couldn't happen with Jonathan David. I think the biggest issue, which I wasn't aware of and people in the chat have been putting, is that 10 million signing on fee from the agents. Like, that just sounds absolutely ridiculous. So whether or not Jonathan David's got to move away from his agent, who knows? But he's certainly not going to get a move if that's the case, because I imagine a lot of clubs will not be willing to pay that.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when it's the fee that it is with the year left on his contract, although it's a great fee. To put that 10 million on top, you're looking at a 30-40 million euro transfer, which is what teams are looking to sign, and not looking to sign Jonathan David for. They're looking to sign a good player at a good fee. You add that on, and it makes that whole deal not worthwhile. So that's why I think he's probably not been signed to a club yet. So I think it's absolutely fair. But Robin, from your perspective and from your, you watching various different leagues and seeing various different players, are there any players that maybe we've talked about, not talked about, that you think would be ones that Newcastle United should maybe look out for? We just need to hope that Paul Mitchell's watching right now.
I don't think Paul Mitchell will be listening to me, put it that way. Yeah, I mean, there's actually a couple of names that have come up in the chat. Brian Mbeumo is a player I really like. I think could do really well at another club. Is ready to make the step up. I think he's been outstanding for Brentford for a good few years now. So it's certainly a player to look out for. Kubo in Spain as well is another excellent player. Obviously been through Real Madrid and Barcelona's academies. Excellent player, and he's been linked to Liverpool as well, I believe. He's a player that I'd love to see in England because I think he's really exciting, and I think the fans would love him. So, if you're looking for a winger, one of these two would be, they're right up my street. Very, very good players and very exciting players to watch.
Definitely. We've heard a little bit about Kubo for various different sections of the fan base.
Is he coming, Chris?
Oh, mate! Like everyone's laughing because I've had my own say on this. Like I don't get me wrong. I've not seen much of Kubo, and I totally take Robin's point of view on him. But the amount of times I've seen this name and like there's been no solid links, and then people are saying, oh, he's Japanese, we're going to sign him because we're going to Japan, and it's just like, come on. It's like I'm not saying I wouldn't want him, but I think people are just putting two and two together, to be honest. I mean, hey, I hope I'm wrong. If we go and sign him tomorrow, it'd be quite funny, wouldn't it? I'm sure people will flip this up, but the amount of times you just keep seeing the link, and I know, he's getting spoken about a lot, but not in the places that you want to hear it from, like your respected journalists and stuff like that. I just keep seeing the name Kubo, and it's just like, I just don't even know where it's coming from. So it proper baffles me. I know a lot of people in the chat say it, and I've seen it on other channels, and it's just I just feel like it's a little bit lazy. I do. It's just so convenient.
Robin has just suggested him, Chris.
No. But Robin said he saw the names in the chat, but that's because everyone keeps writing Kubo in the chat. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know.
What made me laugh, Bobby, you would until Chris and Daz explained it, you wouldn't have known what we were laughing about. But it was just as soon as you said Cuba, I looked at Chris and he just shook his head like, no. But we'd had the conversation.
Yeah, I've got a habit of doing that.
Yeah, just like, oh no. But no. One thing I was going to add though, Kubo and Isaac have played together. And if you want that, we know that Gordon and Isaac have been in sync last season. We know that because we've seen it happen. And I'm sorry, Chris.
And we're going to Japan, Chris.
I'm just looking at the chat and everyone's just writing Kubo.
But actually, if you want someone to be even more, if you want that front line to be in sync, you bring someone that's already played with Isaac, that knows his game, that knows the type of passes, the balls and deliveries that he wants, and it could work. Sorry to say, Chris, Kubo could be the one.
Yeah, no, mate. Like, I'm not saying he's not a good player. I just think it's funny that somebody started with the Kubo thing, and now everybody talks about Kubo. I mean, like, I could just mention, I don't know, I might start one. I could just mention any right winger, and then just everybody will talk about him, and it's just like there's been no link at all. But because we're playing in Japan, everyone's like, oh, but definitely signing Kubo, and it's just like, I don't know. It'd be funny if we signed him now, though. I'd have to get his name on the back of my shirt, wouldn't I?
I think a tattoo, Chris.
Yeah, I would have to. Yeah.
Don't you say that. Have we got a few questions for Robin? Robin, you okay for 5 minutes or so?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
How about we just kind of throw a few names at you, Robin, in the European space and see. So I wanted to go to this one because Ali B mentions that we're being linked again to Fernan Torres. And Chris, this is when you're totally behind. This because you started that rumor, I think yourself.
I started on it, didn't I? Yeah, so maybe.
Yeah. So what do you think our chances are of getting Ferran Torres? They have an awful lot of wingers, right wingers. They're going to buy Nico Williams, who probably play on the left, but they've got Ansu Fati as well. They've got the young wonder kid as well, who rocked up at the Euros. So they're well stocked. So could he be on the move? Would a move back to the Premier League be suited to him?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? There's a lot of talk about Nico Williams going to Barcelona, but so much depends on whether Barcelona can afford to buy Nico Williams, and there's still a lot of doubt about that. Now, obviously, John Laporta, the Barcelona president, has been very bullish about the fact that Barcelona has been saying Barcelona can afford him and Barcelona will sign him. But there's now, we've started to see rumours in the Spanish press today in Mundo Deportivo, for example. I think the headline was Barcelona are panicked by PSG. So there's the prospect of PSG coming in and taking Williams. We've seen, I think Arsenal is similarly linked. Just how serious this is, I'm not entirely sure, but obviously there's a lot of pressure on Barcelona to raise money quickly. Now, that could involve selling Ferran Torres to a Premier League club, because he's obviously done well before at Manchester City. But equally, if the Nico Williams deal isn't possible, then surely Barcelona are going to keep Ferran Torres. So I think so much of it hinges on Barcelona's situation, which is all smoke and mirrors, because you never know. John Laporta will come out and say one thing, but it's not. It suits the fan base to be told this. So it's a really complicated situation, and everything's opaque at Barcelona. So it's difficult. But this is one that he could certainly be sold if Nico goes there. But equally, if Nico is not going to go to Barcelona, then I can't see them selling Ferran Torres.
Okay. Interesting.
Do you think it's more likely, Robin, that because I suppose Barcelona are quite heavy on that right hand side, like they've also got Lamine Yamal and Rafinha. Do you think it's more likely that Rafinha would go rather than Torres?
I think Rafinha would probably raise a bigger fee. Certainly, the talk in the Spanish media is that there's more respect for Rafinha in the Premier League, and that they're more confident about getting a bigger fee for Rafinha by selling him to a Premier League club. So it may well be that Rafinha is the one that they choose to sell simply because they can get a bigger transfer fee for him, which could potentially trigger other deals for Barcelona further down the line this summer. We've also seen them linked to Dani Olmo, which is, for me, I can't see them getting both purely because of the financial situation, but you never know, because Barcelona are pulling levers all over the place. So who knows with them?
Robin, they'll sell something else. Under there and be able to finance the deal. But Chris, I'm not going to lie. I thought you were going to say, when we talk about Ferran Torres, do you think it's more likely than Kubo? I thought that's what you were going to say.
I reckon it is. I reckon Rafinha is more likely than Kubo, and I reckon Ferran Torres is more likely than Kubo, but we'll see. We'll see.
Let's move on. There's a few more names to throw at Robin. Let's go for Kang-in Lee from PSG. And ANC also says the classy South Korean winger from PSG. Apparently, he sold more shirts last season than Mbappe. With this going to Asia soon, this might surely be a thought for Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, PSG don't want to let go of Kang-in Lee. Probably partially because of these financial reasons that were mentioned there. He did sell more shirts than Mbappe, or at least partway through the season, he had sold more shirts than Mbappe, which made headlines. PSG had the opportunity to sign Victor Osimhen from Napoli, but they refused to put Kang-in Lee as part of that deal. They refused to have him as a part exchange option. So although he's a neat and tidy player, he's still a little bit erratic, I would say. I'm not sure he's got the physicality yet to be a Premier League starter. So it's not one that I can see happening. I think PSG probably want to keep him and develop him a little bit. And as I mentioned, they've obviously got those financial considerations to come into it. So he doesn't seem to be a player that PSG want to get rid of. And the trouble with PSG is that the players that they do want to get rid of just simply aren't good enough for Newcastle. So they're in a bit of a bind as well.
I think they're looking at selling Fabian Ruiz to Arsenal. I think they're in talks, which will be a great sign for them.
Wow.
Yeah, that'd be a great sign. So it looks like they're selling in other areas to avoid having to sell that type of player. So makes sense.
Is
Yeah,
Ugarte going to Man United as well?
Sorry?
Is Ugarte? He's meant to be going to Man United as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, I think if Ugarte leaves, the Ruiz stuff's a strange one because I've obviously had an excellent Euros and excelled at the Euros, but he was really poor for PSG over the course of the last season. So you can see why PSG might want to sell now when his stock's high. Ugarte is a player that doesn't really fit into Luis Enrique's plans, but is an excellent player, a superb defensive midfielder if you just want somebody to sit and break the play up. PSG are looking for 70-odd million. So there's a fair bit to go in that deal as well, although by all accounts Ugarte has agreed personal terms with United. So yeah, it's one that could happen.
70 million.
And they've already spent quite a bit on Lenny Oro as well.
Yeah.
And Xerxes. How much was Xerxes? 30?
38 was it?
Yeah, the agent had a big commission as well.
They've spent a bit of money if they get that done. Wow.
Let's throw a few strikers at you, Robin. Let's stick with PSG. If Victor Osimhen was to move to PSG, how about Giancarlo Ramos on the move? Could you see him coming to the Premier League? Because this is my roll of the dice here, Chris.
Yeah, I mean he is a player that PSG have said publicly they want to keep, but if they could get Osimhen, then obviously selling Ramos becomes a possibility. And for me, he's a player that's not been used properly by Luis Enrique. He's not been used enough for PSG. And I think he would be a real asset for Newcastle because he has got that strength. He's good in the air, a pure centre forward. And it'll be really interesting to see how he goes once he starts getting a bit of game time again, because he suffered last season from Kylian Mbappe playing through the centre and not really getting anything like the amount of time on the pitch that he deserved, really, because he should have been used significantly more by PSG. And when he came on, he didn't look sharp. But I'm putting that personally down to just his lack of opportunities.
Another one, friend of the channel, Shimek Kilshoy, aka Kilroy, great age. And a suggestion from FMO, it says, keep Wilson, 3 strikers. Do you think he'd be on the move? Besiktas is where he's based. Robin, do you know much about him?
No, I really don't know much about him. Turkish football is not something that I follow a great deal about. So he's not really a player that I'd be massively keen on commenting on. I've heard positive things about him, but I've not really seen very much of him at all.
He sat on the bench through the Euros anyway. We didn't see much of him then. But yeah, one for the future, I think.
I saw Robin just have a little giggle there, and I weren't sure if it was because of the Turkey time. Newcastle United. I love it. I love it.
Look, this is getting away from links to players. Let's go to this one to kind of wrap it up on questions. But yeah, this one from Shima says, "Hi guys, the rumors and socials that PIF are getting fed up and could offload Newcastle to the Reuben brothers. Just a bit concerning with Amanda leaving. Any concerns? Haven't seen that myself. Nah, I don't think so either.
PIF. I'm not being funny, but with what PIF have done recently with Amanda Staveley and Mehrdad leaving the club, almost being released of their contract, and then them going out of their way to get Paul Mitchell into the club, that tells me the absolute opposite. It tells me that they're not looking to walk away. It tells me that they're actually looking to take more of an active role in making sure that Newcastle United are the team that they are. I don't look. We have to get past this. Like, some of us have been on social media a long time now, and you have to start fizzling out what is the nonsense and what is the stuff that you can take in as either genuine or more likely to be genuine news. And PIF leaving Newcastle United right now after the decisions that they've made this summer seems absolutely impossible to me. Impossible. Would you agree, Robin, with that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Just to go back to PSG again, there's been rumours. I mean, Qatar have been in charge there for well over a decade, but for the last maybe 10 years, there's always been these circulations of rumours that they're getting fed up. Exactly, basically what's been said there. They're ready to sell, they're ready to cut back or whatever. So yeah, it just doesn't make sense. When these guys come in to invest, they come in to invest for the long term, I believe. So I just don't think it's possible.
I mean, there's two things there. So the first thing is the fact that PIF have come in. We've made the Champions League, but we've yet to win anything. So that would be a big factor for me. And surely, if you were on your way out or getting fed up or bored, the last thing you would do is sack two of the shareholders who owned a portion of the club and increase your own shareholding, which is exactly what's happened. The remaining shares from Amanda and Mirdad was split between the Reuben brothers and PIF. It wasn't even the Reuben brothers who took all the shares. They were actually split between PIF and the Reuben brothers. So yeah, I think that to me, I think it's just scaremongering. I completely agree with what you boys have said. Like, not going anywhere.
Definitely. There's a comment in the chat from Andy with regards to Michael and Cody. If you want to go back and watch it, we've already covered him earlier on in the show, so you could definitely go back and watch that. But I think that's it, boys. I think that's it. I think we've covered everything. Robin, absolutely fantastic again. Great to have you join us and discuss all things related to me, but from a European perspective. You've given us a real good insight, let's wish on the Kubo links. Is what I've got to say.
It's someone I'll be following now.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be bringing you back on to discuss that one if that happens. That's for sure. But just can you tell everyone where they can find you? All of our followers, all of our subscribers, so they know where you are and follow your work.
Yeah, so on Twitter or X or whatever you're calling it now, you can find me at @Bairner, and most of my work's conducted at footballtransfers.com.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant. Well, yeah, I think that's it. So, Robin, we'll let you go and we'll see out with the sponsors. But absolutely fantastic to have you. And look, hopefully we can get you back on very soon. Maybe not in a year's time. Let's do it.
Oh, we announce Kubio. We get him on. We get Robin in for the reaction show.
We'll have a special. How about that?
Yes, I love it.
Okay, thanks for having me, guys.
No problem.
Thanks,
you
Robin.
take care.
Cheers, Robin. Thank you, mate.
Cheers. Bye.
Brilliant to have Robin on. Great chat. And we wanted to bring something different, talking about the players linked to Newcastle United and get someone in that actually follows and knows these players. So when they hopefully do come in, we've got a little bit of background on those players already. So great to have them in.
Just one or two things I wanted to clear as well. Claire asked the question, how have I got a spanner? I'm not a mod. Well, yes, you are, Claire. Well, if you want to be, you are. You have a choice. And we've given the spanners to a few people. We've sprinkled them around, and we'll do so again later down the line, just to mix it up a bit. So if you got a spanner, try it out. Don't let the power go to your head, though. What else? Yes, let's give a shout out to the sponsors, to the Radiator Shed. Yes, and you're going to comment about the music being too loud. I hope not, Pete. I hope not. Shout out to Rosa. If you want to kind of contact her. What's so funny?
He's made me laugh.
Don't make me go there, Pete. Don't make me go there.
That was funny. I knew what you said. I knew what you meant. It was not. Why am I doing this?
When he gets the humiliators out, don't make me go there, Pete.
I was laughing because I knew what he was saying. Oh my god. I've been hammered for no reason.
Right. You can contact Russ at theradiatorshed.com on email, or you can contact him on the phone via 077-6604-112 to get Russ. And if also shout out to our other sponsors, and I'll put a stream in the bottom of the screen. Use Loaded20 as well to get 20% off in the Radiator Shed, and use Loaded20 at Manscaped as well. We'll be going more in depth on Manscaped, and lads, I got for our Manscaped promotion go forward. I got a little something here. I think we could use this in our promotion go forward. Hey! So we can bake that into our promotion. And don't worry, Chris, for our future date, I got you a buzzer.
I love
we'll
that.
More about that in our later shows.
I would have pressed that earlier, given the opportunity. I'd have pressed that earlier. As soon as that name come up, I've just gone.
Boys, no more Kubo chat. It's done. It's over before it started.
Well, yeah.
Wait, there'll be a link tomorrow now. There'll be a link.
As revealed on Loaded Mag.
To finish on a positive, boys, before you shut down the show, Daz, been a brilliant show. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Great to see Sandro Tonali, or hear, not see. We didn't get to see it, but great to hear that Sandro Tonali is back in action. We've talked about all players linked, transfers coming in, but having him back next season is going to be like a new signing, as Eddie Howe said the other day. Brilliant to hear that he's back in and playing. Great.
Do we know what the score was, by the way? Because everyone, no one know what the score was. Everyone
was about 9-1.
9-1, and 9-1. And
to be fair, you make your own score up. Just give it a score. Give it a score. Give your scorers. Make it 9-1 to Newcastle United.
Kubo scored a hat trick. Kubo scored a hat trick. There we go.
Or what do they put it when it's a non-registered player? What is it?
Oh yeah, trialist.
Yeah, trialist. That's the one.
Yeah.
So it wasn't Kubo. He scored all the goals, but was under the name trialist. Yeah, apparently it was 345 minutes. So it wasn't like a proper friendly. 345 minutes, and it was mostly under 21. So it's like pre-season's pre-season, friendlies are friendlies. If it's under 21s and Sandro was like the only first team player, so what? Who cares? As long as he's getting minutes, that's all that matters.
Minutes in the tank. Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it.
Absolutely.
Right. Let's close Gina down. We'll see you soon with that signing. Hopefully. Kubo. Good night, everyone. How'd you like that?
Drink it.